friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. I already had this video put together and ready to go, but I decided to add this little front end on here because I thought it might be helpful. Number one, you're in for a real treat at the very end, and I don't want you to skip ahead, I want you to watch the video. But at the very end, the customer himself is playing the guitar. He sent me some audio clips and I put them in there in place of me just kind of fumbling around. So that you're going to enjoy that. The only negative is they're a little short, but they're really good. The other part I wanted to mention is that I think you'll be amazed at how many little issues came up on this guitar. So you might even want to just keep a stick tally there of how many different issues we ran into on this guitar. A couple of them were a little bit unusual. I want to thank you all for your support, and especially my patron supporters. Hope you enjoy the video. Hello friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. It's finally warmed up enough I can wear a t-shirt at least. My goodness, this global warming is about to freeze me to death. I know, I'm going to get all kinds of negative comments on that. Too bad. Anyway, we got one of these. Never seen one before. Don't know what it is. Is there a label in it? It says BC Rich, Los Angeles, California. It's a nice guitar. I like it actually. It seems to be pretty well made. The customer's remarks are it's been his standard guitar for a long time, 40 years it says. He says it might have a belly bulge. The intonation is very bad. It's got a buzz on the low E string. Second string seems muted compared to the rest. That's kind of a common problem with the B string. It always seems that way, it seems like. 2 cracks in the back, hoping they're only finish cracks. Well, you can hope, but sorry, they're pretty bad. Actually, they're really bad. This crack here starts here, and you can see it. I think you can see it in the camera. Starts here, goes all the way up to about here. Lift it up. It's obviously not a finish crack. This crack, there's a smaller crack right here, and actually there's some indentions that tell me these are cracks also. They just haven't opened up yet. There's several cracks along here, and then there's another fairly good crack here. There's another fairly good crack right here. So this back's in rough shape. Not to mention that the binding is just loose, and it's loose in several places, and that's the way it came out of the case. So anyway, it's in rough shape. The neck angle, I gotta tell you, looks a little bit high. I'm hoping we can get the action down to something reasonable, but it looks like it would be hard to do, but you never know. The bridge looks kind of thick, so we can probably do something with that. So we could, if we have to, we could take this down, I think. This saddle, while it's in there, it doesn't look good. It's real loose fitting, and he's got an under saddle pickup there. It's a real thick saddle, which is okay, but you can see here there's a lot of play in it. We'll make a new saddle for that, and we'll probably even have to recut the slot if he said the intonation is extremely bad. One way or the other, we'll make that work too. Right now, we got to start on this stuff back here because nothing happens till this gets fixed, because this is pretty bad. I'm going to have to give this little thought off camera and decide how we're going to do it. This purfling that's inlaid on top is actually missing from here to here. I may have a piece of that, and we may be able to fix it. Here's some chips coming out of the inside of the guitar there. So we'll just have to look this all over and see what our plan of attack is. What I'm also noticing is that this back is loose all the way up into here. So it's really loose from the kerfing on the inside pretty much all the way around. You can see I can lift it up there, and it's lifting up all the way over to here. It's not a good scenario. I picked a lot of loose wood out of here. The kerfing was busted in this area. Those pieces are laying right here. You can see the pieces that I picked out of there. Oh my goodness. I don't know where to start. It's pretty bad. I would like to get that crack to line up better. It's not lining up from one side to the other. You can feel the crack. If it would line up better, I don't know. Not sure how I want to address this, to be honest. I don't know if I want to go with regular wood glue or CA glue. I'm tempted to just go ahead and cut this binding off. I hate to do that. I mean, just cut it right here just to get it out of my way so I have access to work at this better, because it's really kind of ugly. I may just try taping it down out of my way for right now. And this other little piece here just have to get up there out of my way. We'll try that and see if that works. I think just because this is so rattled in this area, I think I'm going to use the CA glue and put it in this crack and let it work itself down in there. I know it'll go down in the crack and it'll be strong enough to hold that. This appears to have been a damage type issue where maybe it got banged. There's quite a bit of finish missing right here. I have a feeling it got hit real hard on that corner is what I'm guessing, but don't really know that. While I'm at it with the CA glue, I'm going to be using this, they call them a pipette, I believe. They come with a really long nozzle. The nozzle is probably twice as long as it is here. I've cut it off. The reason is that long nozzle, in my opinion, causes it to drip and clog. If you cut the nozzle off about halfway and you're careful, you can reuse this. Believe it or not, with CA glue, you can reuse it dozens of times. I've probably already used this one 15 or 20 times already. And you can see it still has airflow. You can squeeze it. Now, how do I keep that open? Well, I'll show you. What I do after I'm done doing my CA glue application, then obviously I squeeze all the excess back in the bottle, and then I squeeze it a couple of times into a paper towel like this and try to get it all clean. Then once I get as much out of it as I possibly can, I might even shake it and squeeze it. Then I turn it up like this, and I might squeeze it again a couple of times into the paper towel, that type of thing. But then I squeeze it really good and tight. I clean it really good, and then I let off the pressure really fast. That sucks anything that's left down into the body of the pipette. And then I leave it stored standing up like this. The next time I want to use it, it's fine to use. I've done it dozens and dozens of times. I'm sure somebody will say that won't work. Well, it will work. I do it all the time. I'm sure some of you say, well, why are you that thrifty? Well, I mean, it's not so much thrifty, it's the convenience. It's just having, the pipettes last a lot longer. I don't have to order them so often. I don't run out of them as often. So it's just handy. It's got nothing to do with the money side of it. The other thing I do before I start something like this is I wipe it off on the outside, because if you don't, it'll drip and cause runs and all kinds of ugly things. This ain't going to be pretty. It's going to make a mess, but we'll just have to clean up the mess later.
Every time it rains, Lord, I run to my window. All I do is just wring my hands and moan. Listen to that thunder roar, can't you hear that lonesome wind moan? So tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? Tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? You been gone so long now. Tell me, baby, now why.
I believe I got the back now in one piece from here over to here. I see light wrinkles in this finish that tell me that there could be additional cracks in there, but I don't see any actual open cracks, so unfortunately I can't do much about those. I might also point out on this, someone before me has tried to touch up these little chips out of the finish. I think you can see them here in several places, and depending on how the reflection is there, you might be able to see them. But anyway, there's several places where you can see somebody's daubed something in those chip outs. So we'll try to fix that and smooth this whole thing out. We'll try to clean up this whole back a little bit. Looks like maybe they've done the same thing here in a few places. You can see, I think, some chip outs where they've put some glue and stuff. So anyway, we'll try to clean all that up, make the whole back look better. But that, I feel much better about that already. That I don't see any movement there now. It feels like one solid piece now. I'm pretty happy with that. I wasn't sure it was going to go like that, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm going to see about this crack up here now, and I think it's open too, but it's not as bad. I think it's open, but I can't hardly tell you for sure that it is. Let's just clean it real good. I take the end of the brush and make it stiff and work on something like that just to make sure there's nothing blocking any glue going into that crack. This crack's even hard to see, but it's definitely an open crack, so we're going to put the glue in this too. Yeah, it is sucking down in the crack. I can see it going down in there. Again, I tap on it like this. This really does. You can actually see the glue bouncing in and out of the hole when you do this. Okay, so that's about as much as it's going to go down in the crack. I'll wipe off the excess as much as I can, as quick as I can, so that it doesn't leave too much of a residue there. That looks really pretty good, and I can see glue working its way out of the crack as I squeeze it down here. We'll let that set for a few minutes. And now we'll spritz it with the accelerator. Hopefully we won't see nothing turn white there either. Seems to work. I think we got it. I think it's solid. Hold it a few more seconds here just to make sure. Yep, it's good. It's solid. Well, that worked good. I'm much happier with that now than I was 5-10 minutes ago. So we're pretty good shape. Now let's see what we can do about this end loosening around the kerfing here. The kerfing itself appears to be fine on the inside. I'm afraid we might have glued a little bit back to the kerfing as we glued that crack in places. I think it went down and stuck to the kerfing, unfortunately. But that's not all in all terrible either. I think what I'll do is just continue with the CA glue in this case, because we got so many shrapnel pieces here. I think that's the best approach. I don't think, wood glue would be a better approach if it wasn't so shrapnelized, if it wasn't so chipped up and cracked and messed up. But this way, this CA glue will get into all those cracks and glue it better, I think, in this case. I'm going to try to put this chip back in here that was out and see if I can glue it back in. I don't think the rest of the chips are that big that I have to worry about them, but this one here's a pretty good size one. And I'm just going to hold it in place. I'm going to get it like this, let gravity help me out here. I'm going to try to get this one piece down in there as best I can. I think it's in there about where it belongs. I really don't see any other option here at this point other than to just go ahead and glue it. I would like to I think I'm going to tape this piece out of my way the other direction, because I don't really want to glue the bindings in place yet. I really think that's about as good as I'm going to get. So let's go ahead and get some CA glue in here. Alright, and then we're just going to work it in all kinds of places.
What's scratching at my door, Lordy, Lord, and I can hear that lonesome wind blow. So tell me, baby, now why you been going so long, guitar?
Okay, so there's what it looks like right now. I think we're just about perfect. I really didn't expect it to be that easy, to be honest with you. I was expecting more trouble than this has given me so far. So that's a good thing for the customer. Saves him money. Let's see what we got here with the binding now, how well it's going to fit back in the area. Getting that binding out of my way was key to making this fix, by the way. Okay, I got a little stick out right here where it's not perfectly smooth, but that's okay. It's easy to fix. I could do it with a chisel, but I think I'm just going to try it with this file, and just because the file follows the contour much easier without doing any tear out. A little bit, maybe just a hair longer to do it, but not much. But the file makes a nice smooth transition here. I've done this before, that's why I chose the file rather than trying to cut it. That's real nice. And now I don't feel the bulge, the stick out. Maybe a little bit. I'm feeling a little something on the back side of this binding, so I'm going to use this Exacto knife. And maybe you can see as it's cutting the junk off the back of here. The back side of the knife is actually an excellent scraper in tight areas. So I use it quite often. Oh, that's perfect now. Absolutely perfect. It fits just snug and smooth. Yeah, that was my problem. There was some stick out here on the inside, but the binding itself had some stuff stuck to it. That's real good. Maybe just a hair right in here yet. So now I just got to find me a piece of purfling that we can fit in here to match that. I think we're good to go. Well, I went through my scrap binding drawer and I found a piece that's very, very similar. It's white and black, but the problem is it's just too thin, I think. I mean, we could sort of fudge it and make it work, but I think you can maybe see that it kind of flops in the groove. The groove's bigger. The groove is wider than this stuff is, or thicker, or whatever you want to call it. Here's a piece that has 3 colors on it, white, black, white, and it's much closer, but it's too wide. I think I can clean off this inner white down to black, and then it should match it almost exactly. So that's what I'm going to try to do. It's not that big a deal. I don't really have to go to this extreme, but I think it'll just look much nicer and be a much better job. I'm cutting it off to length plus a little bit, and now I'm going to see if we can scrape off this white. If you can see it there, it's white, black, white, and I just want to scrape off this inner thin white. I was going to use a single edge razor blade to scrape this off with, and that may have even been a better choice, but this was handy and so I just used it. Let's see if we can just clean up the back side of that a little bit with this file. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's just see how it fits in the guitar now. It might be a hair too thick still. Don't really know for sure. It probably is a hair too thick. Yeah, now the white is probably just a little bit too thick. Not much. So now, I think what I'm going to try is just running it through my thickness sander and just knock just the tiniest amount off of the white there. Well, I'm going to just double check and see how thick this stuff is. It's measuring about 50 thousandths, I'm going to say, and I think we're still quite a bit heavier than that. We're about 65 thousandths. So I'm going to run this through a little bit more on the thickness sander, and I think we're ready to go. See, the original piece that I was going to use, it's only 40 thousandths, so it's 10 thousandths too thin. Now the new piece that I made, it's 53 or 4 thousandths. So it's within a few thousandths of the original, and I think it's going to work just fine. The tricky part here is making the ends match up where you don't hardly notice that. So I'm going to clip this end off a little more square because it's not very square. Actually, it doesn't want to clip real good. I think I'll just file it off square. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now we have a good square end on that. We need a good square end on this piece. I think we got that now. And now we need to mark it for length. Got the ends butted up, and I'm still going to go just a hair long, but got it marked there for length, and it's still just a little bit long. That way you can sneak up on it. See how it fits in there now. It's almost the right length, not quite. Well, it's real close to the right length. I think I'll just make sure that this one's okay. Clean out the slot that it fits into here too, because the slot could have glue or anything in it. Let's see there. We might have it now. Yeah, I think we got it. No, maybe not. It might be a hair long. It might just be a hair long still. I'm going to just take just a hair off of it. I think I'll do that with a file. think that's it. Biggest problem I have at the moment is this is much taller than it needs to be. It stands up above the guitar. I think I'm actually going to run that through my thickness sander too, just to knock it down so that it'll be closer, and then I won't have to take off so much when we get it glued in there. So we're going to thin this down to make it fit the guitar a little better. It's way too wide in this direction, so I'm going to run it through on its edge and knock that thickness down. We'll start with that and see what that does. Okay, that's quite a bit narrower than it was. I don't think it's narrow enough yet, but I think we can go with that and then take it down after we get it glued into the guitar. I don't like to work in gloves, but there's no way to clamp this, and I'm going to have to hold this all, and it's going to be wet, and it's just going to be kind of a mess. So I don't want to get my hands glued to it, so I'm wearing these gloves. I've fitted this piece in there that we've cut, and it fits. I think it's going to be really good, hardly even almost an invisible repair when we're done here, but not quite, but close. The question is, how do I get glue on all this without making a mess and getting this all glued together? And I am not sure. It's just going to rely totally on experience and luck. So here we go. I'm going to start back here where it's already loose. Nothing about this that's easy, I got to tell you. And you got to be careful because you'll get runs that'll go down your guitar there, and then that's not good. And then you want to make sure you put this black and white piece in there where the way it goes. You don't want to get it turned around and get it backwards. I think it's working. And the CA starts to burn your eyes on top of everything else whenever it gets right down to the nitty-gritty. It looks real good, I think. Okay, I'm holding as much as I can, and now that I think it's kind of set up a little bit, spritz it with the accelerator. I believe we're good. Yeah, I think it turned out real good. And I think we're able to get it pretty clean too. Really, there's no real glue mess there or anything. I like it. Yeah, I like it. It's going to be almost invisible compared to where we started. And it was a pretty ugly mess when we started. Wow, that's pretty good. Alright, so now for cleaning up this edge, I normally use a single edge razor blade, but this is standing up pretty tall. I think I'm just going to go ahead and knock it down a little bit with this file first. We're still way high, so we're not near the guitar by any stretch, in case you're wondering. I have it at a slight angle from the top so that I'll touch this binding before I'll touch the guitar, and then I'll know I'm close enough to stop. Okay, that's getting pretty close. I think I can go to the single edge razor blade now and get it even closer. I can take off these dang gloves. I'm not a glove person. I've got the razor blade just extended just to the edge of the binding that I'm cleaning up, so it won't touch the guitar either. Now, of course, it's not cleaned up yet. You can see how I just finished. But, that looks pretty darn good, and it's solid. I wouldn't feel like there's going to be any problem with that coming loose or breaking or anything. You can see I'm tapping on it really good and hard there, and it's not doing anything. So I think it's good and solid. It looks pretty darn good. You can barely tell that there's a patch right there and a patch right here. So, pretty darn good. There's a big chip out right here of the finish. I think I'll just try filling it with the CA glue. and then see if we can't, you know, buff that out later and clean it up. It won't hardly be noticeable, I don't think, but it's a pretty big chip out. I think that's where the damage originally occurred, if I was guessing. Okay, now this, because it's a finish repair, I probably won't put accelerator on this, at least for quite a while. I might, after I've waited 10 or 15 minutes, if it's still not hard, I may put accelerator on it. And I'm just trying to fill the whole area here, more or less level. I think that's about it. It's running down inside right here, so that chip out is filling a crack. I think we're good. We're going to let that set for a while. This guitar's been sitting for several hours. Not that it needed to with the CA glue or anything, but it's been sitting for several hours just because I was busy. And I just checked on the inside of the guitar, and you can see that the glue penetrated the full length of that crack. Same way with this crack here, and I couldn't see back on these, but I would imagine these are penetrated as well. So I feel really good about this crack. There's no stress on these cracks. In my opinion, you don't really need to cleat them, and as a matter of fact, the glue penetrated well enough that it went there's braces that come across in here like this, and it penetrated to those, and it's stuck to those. So I don't really feel like I need to cleat it. I really don't. I cleat anything that's got stress on it. If it's something you had to push together, then you should cleat that because it's going to pull apart. This is not one of those issues, and I don't think there's any reason to worry about cleating it. If you think about it, this joint, I mean, like when you put like a mandolin or a violin together, you know, you don't cleat that main joint down the middle. You just carve it, and it gets real thin, and it holds. So that's the way I feel about these cracks here. Since they're not under stress, I don't think there's any reason to cleat them. That being said, I'm going to sand these cracks out a little bit. Not that it's going to go away, but I think I can make it look a little better. I've got 600 wet or dry, and I'm also going to try to clean up these other fill spots that someone else did. I'm not going to show the whole process, but suffice it to say we're going to sand quite a bit of the area because it's in real rough shape. And I'll bring you back when we get a little closer to finished. I took a razor blade with some cellophane wrapped around it where I just have the middle of the razor blade exposed, and I'm cleaning up those areas where they put finish on there that mounted up and it really didn't get leveled. And so I'm cleaning that off, and I've done that all over the place. As a matter of fact, I'm going to probably sand this whole back and just not refinish it, of course, but I'm going to sand it and then buff out the whole back because there's just spots everywhere. Anyway, we'll make it look pretty good when we're done.
Somebody said they thought they saw you rolling down in Reno with a big old man from San Antonio. They tell me I'm a fool to pine for you, but what do they know? So tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? Tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? You been gone so long now. Tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? The wolf scratching at my door, Lord, Lord, and I can hear that lonesome wind moan. So tell me, baby, now why you been gone so long? How about that banjo?
I think we got her all leveled off real good, all the high spots, and got most everything filled pretty well. You know, if you wanted to spend a lot more time and a lot more money, you could make it perfect, but we're trying to make it look pretty darn good compared to pretty much a disaster when it got here. Well, I thought I had the camera on. I've sanded the whole back of this with 600 grit, and now I'm going over it with 1200 grit. Most of the repairs are just pretty much invisible. Even this great big crack that went from about here all the way down is just barely visible at all. and you really got to be looking at it just right to see it. So this is working out really nice. In the other video, or where I thought I had the camera on, I explained that I don't always use a sanding block. I like to use my fingers. I've been doing it that way for a long time, and I get very good results that way. A lot of it's the pressure, a lot of it's how you move your hand around, you know, and what this does for me, I think, rather than a sanding block, is I can put the pressure where I need the pressure. Like if there's a spot that I'm trying to work out, I can put specific pressure right there, where with the sanding block it spreads it out and you can't get the pressure right where you want it. So to me, this works great for me. It may not be the way you would want to sand a top or a back. It really is good. Right here I don't even see a crack at all anymore.
Nothing I'd rather do, so I think I'll just get stowed.
Here's what she looks like after the 1200. Boy, it's really hard to even see a crack anywhere now. I mean, I can sort of see it through here, but it's not easy. See, right here, this crack didn't line up as well, and you can see this one a little bit, but otherwise it's pretty darn good. Okay, we'll take some 1500 now and go over it one more time.
And let the past paint pictures in my head. You kill the fifth of fun, you're flirting and try to write a sad, sad song. You try my baby, now why you been gone so long?
I think because I have to polish this whole back, I'll just take it to the big buffing wheel and see what that does for it. And then we might get back to the semi-chrome polish if we have to.
Tell me baby, now why you been gone so long? You've been gone so long now. Tell me baby, now why you been gone so long? What's scratching at my door, Lordy, Lordy, I can hear that lonesome wind.
I can't really tell how well the video's picking this up, but I think you can see this is the side I buffed. Obviously I haven't buffed this side yet. So it really does a pretty nice job. And now we're going to buff this side, and we might have to touch it up a little bit with some semi-chrome hand polish there later.
So tell me baby, now why you been gone so long? Tell me baby, now why you been gone so long?
There's what she looks like after some buffing there. You know, it looks like a well cared for old guitar now. I gotta be honest, the cracks actually show up better after it's been buffed than they did before buffing, but they're not bad. You can see the crack here if you hold it in the right light, and it's mostly not so much the crack, it's the fact that the angle, there's a slight angle to each crack, if you will, and that's what's showing up more than anything. Well, we got her buffed out pretty good all over, and looks like a pretty decently cared for guitar now. Going to use a little Renaissance paste wax and just go over the instrument quickly. Another part of the note from the customer said he could not get a socket into the truss rod adjusting area here. I can tell already the screws are completely stripped out. The first screw was taped in and I just took the tape off and it came right out. These other screws are loose, so I would assume they're probably stripped too. This one is for sure. Yeah, I can see why he would have trouble with that. It's the bottom of the hole is right against the nut is what the problem is. What we'll need to do there is to try to determine how thick that is in that area. I don't know, there's probably a bunch of different ways. One way I could do it would be to kind of go like this and say that that's 350 thousandths down in there. How thick is this through here? And it's 600 thousandths thick, so it's a little over a ½ inch thick. And so we've got a little bit of room there that we can go in there and crawl under there a little bit and try to get a tool in there. First thing I'm going to do is just see if my tool will fit it. I doubt it, but we'll see. No, it won't go into there either, so I think we'll get out the Dremel tool and try to improve that channel a little bit. You might not be able to see what I'm doing real well here, but I have the little rotary bit here on the end, and I'm going to just use it kind of like a pencil and just get in here and try to clean out underneath there. It's not easy to do, and it's kind of dangerous. I don't think we're even close yet, but I'm kind of wanting to see if I'm going to be able to get the tool under there anyway. This truss rod appears to be coming down at an angle, which is the wrong angle for this. And the other problem is the other screw hole is right there, so you can't go too much further out in front. Believe it or not, as small as that cutter is, it's still way too big. I'm going to have to go all the way down to this little tiny cutter to get underneath there without doing too much damage. And that's not easy to use either. It's a tiny little cutter. They don't cut that well. And I'm going to have to leave as much stick out as possible, which is not good, but that's what I have to do to make it get up in there. It's dangerous in that you could just poke through the other side if you're just not careful what you're doing. I think we still got plenty of depth there, but it's getting very close. I'm almost there, but not quite. Boy, it's way closer than it was, that's for sure. It's right on the edge of working, but it doesn't really work yet. It's just, like I said, part of it's this out here in the front. You can't get the tool down low enough because of this extra hole right here. And I'm tempted to just decide to make a new pickguard cover with a hole out further, because you just can't really get to it the way it's designed. I might be able to cut into that hole even a little bit and it won't hurt anything, is what I'm thinking here, because we'll fill the hole back in tight. It'll just be that there's a little distance between the plate and the hole. That helps. That helps for sure. It's still not quite going, mostly because there's just too much wood under there, I think. Wish I could get in there with something other than that Dremel tool. I'm going to try a little long skinny chisel here to see if I can get under there a little bit with the, because it's the wood under there that's really stopping me, I think. And I'm a little bit leery with that rotary tool that it might grab and then cut through or something. There we go. Working it sideways like a scraper is actually working really good. It worked really good. It cut that wood out of there. Yeah, that worked real well. We've got room under there now. Yeah, I can actually get it on there and turn it a little bit now. What I'm going to do is take the nut all the way off, if it'll come all the way off. That way I can get in there a little better and clean it out a little bit better. I think we got it cleaned all the way back to where they've got a brass nut of some sort in there, a brass plate that the nut rides against. I'm going to see if I can get a washer on that, a small washer on that first before I put this nut on there. I was able to get 2 little washers on there, to my surprise. I didn't really expect that. And I felt like that was necessary for a couple of reasons. Number one, it might be bottoming out. I figured number two, it'd be good because I didn't really like the backstop that was there. So this will widen out the backstop a little bit. That also leaves the nut sticking out a little further. It makes it a little easier to get to. And now we're up tight. I'm going to snug it up pretty good. I'm looking down the fretboard. It looks to be pretty darn flat. Check it with my straight edge here. And it does look like it's got a little underbow there, which is what I was guessing with my eye, but not much. It's pretty flat. I'm going to try to get it completely flat. We can always let it down after we get the strings on it. I believe we got her perfectly flat now. Yeah, that's just about perfect. It might even have a tiny amount of back bow in it, which I think will be fine because the strings will pull that out. He said the action's high and that the belly bulge is there, so I'm trying, and I can tell the neck angle's not the best, so I'm just trying to do everything I can to give me the advantage to get the action set as low as possible. Now, I filled these holes with some toothpicks thinking that that might be sufficient, but it's not going to be in this case. This hole's completely broke out on the side. This one's not completely broke out, but it's right on the verge. Definitely going to have to fix this side here with some extra wood. Kind of made like a corner there, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that corner or not. Anyway, that gives me room to glue a piece of wood into that corner and just like leave it blocked out here a little bit. And I'm going to try to lengthen it on this side here so that I can glue it along this side. Give me 2 reasonably good surfaces to glue a block of wood to is what I'm trying to do. And then we can re-drill it and put a screw in it. Well, a little off camera, I spent a little time shaping this, just a little bit, and it fits that hole pretty darn good, the space that I cut out. I can wedge it in right here between the nut and the side to let the glue dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to go ahead and use regular wood glue on this. It takes a little longer, but I think it's the better choice. I think it'll hold the pressure better. That really sucked it up in there tight that way. So now what I'll do is give that about an hour to dry, and then we'll come back with the Dremel tool and carve it back to where it should be. Decided to work on the fretboard while I'm letting this dry up here. I think I can do that without causing any problem. While this is still drying up here, I'm going to go ahead and make a new saddle for this. The saddle is so loose that it just literally falls out. I don't make them like that. You can see here it's really loose. I'm just looking for length. If it's the right length, I can use it for that. It's even short on the length. It's about 10 thousandths short on length and probably 10 thousandths too narrow here. So I'm going to go make one quite a bit bigger than this, and we'll sneak up on it and make sure it fits the hole real good. The customer mentioned that this thing had intonation problems, and so I thought I better, before I go building the new deer antler saddle, I better double check and see, how bad it is. Well, it's not horrible. It's not perfect, but it's not horrible. When I checked the small E, it's only a few cents sharp, only maybe 5 cents sharp. When When I check the heavy E, it's only about 4 or 5 cents sharp too. So it's really not very bad, actually, on the intonation. It's actually pretty darn good. So I'm going to go ahead and make the deer antler saddle, and then I will just intonate the saddle to make it work, because I think we're plenty close to do that with this thick, especially with this thick saddle. Okay, before I get the strings back on it, I'm going to need to clean this little thing up here and get the truss rod cover on it. This little patch I put in there. And we'll see. I'm going to clean that up with this. I think that'll be fine. It doesn't look, you know, perfectly smooth or anything, but it's gonna be covered by the truss rod cover, and I can clean it up a little bit more with a chisel too. So we'll just clean it up a little bit more here just to smooth it off. And I'm not worried about the color because obviously the color doesn't match, but like I said, it's under the truss rod cover. Nobody's going to see it. It's just a functional thing to make the screw work. Yeah, because that one there just fell out before. Now it screws in just fine. And this one here, I've got toothpicks in the hole, but I'm just going to kind of punch a hole there where between the toothpicks and put that screw in, and it should be fine. That's perfect. It's not going to rattle. It's solid. It isn't going to come off of there. We can move on. I've got the strings on the guitar, and I look down the neck and I can see a pretty big underbow. Generally speaking, if you can see an underbow pretty clearly, you've got too much. Now I am just checking it here. I don't really know yet. I'm going to pull out the feeler gauge and just see how much we have. Here's the 10 thousandths. It just happens to be on the gauge right at the moment. Let's just see if that'll slide under there. I kind of think it will. Yeah, no problem at all, because it looks like there's more than that. I would say for sure at least 12, if not more. Matter of fact, here's a 12. Let's just check that. And no problem. Yeah, 12's pretty snug though, I'd say. Well, no, it still fits under there pretty easily. Let's just double check and see how wide it is, if we can come up with something here. This is a 20. I don't think a 20 will go under there. If it does, we're in trouble. No, 20, well, 20 doesn't go under there. No, it lifts it 4. There's 16. I don't know if that'll go under there or not. Yeah, 6. Nope. Let's see. Yeah, actually 16 just kind of barely goes under there. It's tight. So I'd say we're right at about 16. Well, the bottom line is, just by looking down it, I knew there was too much underbow. So I'm going to take off the truss rod cover again, loosen the strings, tighten up the truss rod some more, and see if we can get rid of some of that underbow. We're going to try to tighten this up some more, although gotta be honest, it's kind of hard to do. There it went some. And it went some more. And it went a little bit more. Well, we got a problem. I kind of suspected there might be a problem. The truss rod is lifting up the fretboard here at the beginning. So we're going to have to back up and punt, because that's not going to work. That's not good. Tell you another problem this guitar has is getting these strings out. And yeah, you can push them down if you can push them down, but when you're trying to do it like I'm doing it here, there's not much slack. And they stick in there really bad. So I'm going to look at that underneath that. While I've got these strings off again, I'm going to look under the bridge plate and see if the bridge plate, if it's tore up underneath there, because it's really hard to get these strings out. Much harder than it should be. No, actually it's not bad at all. I've got an extra heavy bridge plate in there made out of what looks like rosewood. Doesn't look too bad, but I think what the problem might be is that these grooves are just not cut very good that are in here. And I think I'm going to just take this little rat tail file, tiny little file, and just try to round them off, because I think they're cut really very fine. That might have helped a little bit. What I'm doing is cleaning underneath this fretboard, because it lifted up, and we have to be able to glue it back down. It's a really tight joint, so what I'm going to do again is use the super glue. I'm going to feed it in with the pipette again, because I want to be able to control how much is getting out there. I don't want to just dump it on there. And I think what I'm going to do is open it up a little bit with this Exacto knife, which that helps it open up, and then this will run down in there really good. We'll let that set a little while to make sure that that's stuck real good. Well, we've got all the little catastrophes taken care of. I'm starting to put the strings back on it, but I kind of want to see if the saddle's going to be about the right height before I get it all strung up, even though I'm sure I'll probably end up having to unstring it again and take some more off the height. But I just want to see if we're in the ballpark. Well, that looks pretty close right there, and that looks pretty close right there. So let's just go ahead and put some strings on it, and we'll end up probably having to take it apart one more time, more than likely. We have her strung up. We've got her up to tension. Customer was concerned about the belly bulge. Yeah, there is a belly bulge there, and it's a lot more than I would like to see. But is there anything we can really fix? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. It's always a possibility, I guess, if you wanted to go deep into it. We're just a hair over 90 thousandths there, which isn't too bad, and we're quite a bit over 80. I would say we're at 100 here. Pretty close. It's a little, right at 100 there. It's within a thousandth or so of 100. But on this side, we're close to 90. It's a little bit high. It's not quite 100. Actually, I guess it is. So it's about 100 on each side. So I'd like to take 10 thousandths here, 20 thousandths there, which translates to 20 thousandths here, 40 thousandths there. So 20 to 40 thousandths is what we need to take off the bottom of the saddle. Before we do that, though, let's just check the intonation one more time. I think it's going to be pretty good, because I did intonate the saddle the way I think it should be. Okay, on the bass side, I want to take off 20 thousandths here to drop at 10. So we're taking off, and then I want to take off 40 thousandths on this side to drop at 20 on the treble side. Maybe you can see there's 20 thousandths on that side, 40 thousandths on this side, but I don't know if you can see those scratches or not. Anyway, that's where we're going. Okay, I've got my 80 thousandths here, and let's see if it goes under there. Boy, I mean, it's like right there. 80 thousandths on the nose, man, I mean, it's perfect. And then 90 thousandths, it's absolutely perfect. Doesn't move at all. Doesn't move up, doesn't move down. Perfect. Okay, so we're good on this end. Let's double check the other end, the nut end here, and just make sure that it's good. It looks to be good. I don't think we have to do anything up at this end, but let's just check it. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so the last thing is let's just check for buzzes or anything like that. I think it's good though. Well, we got this BC Rich guitar all fixed back up. I think all the real problems are addressed. We didn't address the belly bulge, but without significant effort, there's really not much I could do there. I don't really feel like that's a big issue since the action's still good and everything's still playable. So we did everything else. We ran into quite a bit of time just doing everything else, so I didn't feel like I wanted to spend a lot more of the customer's money working on this thing. I think it's up in very good shape, very playable, fixed all those big cracks and things in the back, and they look awesome. I just can't imagine how well they turned out compared to what I was expecting. Friends, you're in for a real treat. Rather than me fumbling around trying to let you hear what the guitar sounds like, we're going to let you hear it from the owner himself. This guitar had already been shipped back before I put this video together, and fortunately the customer sent me a couple of audio clips of him playing the guitar. And I'm telling you, he can play. It's very good. Just sit back and enjoy this. That's a good sounding box there. I don't know much about the BC Rich guitar, but I hope you enjoyed how we put her back in shape to play. Thank you very much for watching.